Before we go further, let me ask you something. Everyone says, a small choice can change your whole life. But what does that actually mean? What is that small choice? Is it waking up earlier? Working harder? Being more disciplined? Or is it something much simpler than that? Because what if the choice that changes your life is not about doing more, but about stopping one thing you keep repeating every day? There is a quote I've been thinking about a lot lately. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And honestly, I didn't really understand this quote before. I thought it was about extreme situations, big mistakes, or dramatic life changes. But recently, I started to see it in a much quieter way. Not in big decisions, but in small, everyday choices. A while ago, I found myself in a place that looked completely fine from the outside. I had a stable path, a clear routine, and nothing was seriously wrong. But inside, there was a quiet feeling that kept coming back. Not loud, not urgent, just a small question appearing in random moments. Is this really the direction I want? I didn't have a clear answer. So like many people, I ignored it. I told myself I would think about it later when I had more time, when I felt more ready. But that later never really came, because my days kept filling themselves with the same choices. And that's when I realized something important. Your life is not shaped by what you think about once in a while. It is shaped by what you do every day without thinking. The small, repeated choices that feel too normal to question are the ones that quietly build your future. When you wake up and immediately check your phone, that is a choice. When you feel tired and decide to scroll instead of rest, that is a choice. When you postpone something meaningful because it feels uncomfortable, that is also a choice. None of these moments feel important, but when you repeat them every day, they become a pattern. And that pattern becomes your life. This is why many people feel stuck, even when nothing is obviously wrong. It is not because they are making terrible decisions. It is because they are making the same decisions over and over again. The same habits, the same reactions, the same way of spending time. And slowly, without realizing it, they create a life that feels predictable but not fulfilling. They keep hoping for change, but they are not creating the conditions for change. And this is where that quote becomes real. Not in a dramatic way, but in a quiet, everyday way. Doing the same thing and expecting a different result. For me, this became very clear when I started looking at my own choices. I was following a path that made sense, something stable and familiar. At the same time, I was creating content about personal growth, emotions, and living a more intentional life. It started as something small, something I did when I had time. But over time, I noticed a difference. On days when I chose to create, even just a little, I felt more connected to myself. Not more successful, not more productive, but more aligned. On days when I didn't, everything was still fine. But something felt slightly off. Not wrong, just not right. That contrast changed the way I saw things. I realized that the direction of your life is not decided by one big decision. It is decided by the small choices you repeat most often. And that is both uncomfortable and empowering. Uncomfortable, because it means you cannot blame everything on circumstances. But empowering, because it means you don't need to change everything at once. You only need to change what you repeat. The problem is, small choices don't feel powerful. They don't feel like progress. They don't give you immediate results. And because of that, we underestimate them. We think change has to be big, visible, and fast. But real change is quiet. It happens in moments that don't look important. It happens when you don't feel motivated. It happens when no one is watching. So what is that small choice? It's not a big action. It's not a perfect habit. It's the moment you pause and don't do what you always do. When you feel tired and instead of scrolling, you rest. When you want to delay something and instead, you start just a little. When you feel uncomfortable and instead of avoiding, you stay. That's it. That's the small choice. It looks simple, almost too simple. But it is powerful. Because it breaks the pattern. And once you break a pattern, even once, you create the possibility of a new one. And if you repeat that new choice, again and again, it becomes part of you. Think about it like this. Imagine you go to the gym for the first time. You spend 1 hour exercising. You feel tired, maybe even proud of yourself. But the next day, nothing looks different. No visible change. And this is where many people stop. Because the effort feels real, but the result feels invisible. But something has already started. Your body is adapting. And if you continue day after day, there will be a moment when the change becomes visible. Not because of one workout, but because of many. Learning a language works in the same way. In the beginning, everything feels difficult. You listen, but you don't understand. Words sound too fast, sentences feel confusing, and sometimes you feel like you're not making any progress at all. You try to remember vocabulary, but you forget it quickly. And after a few days, it's easy to think, maybe this is not working for me. But something is happening even if you don't see it yet. Every time you listen, your brain is slowly getting familiar with the sounds. Every word you learn, even if you forget it later, is still building a foundation. And then, one day, something small changes. You start to recognize a few words in a sentence. You begin to catch simple phrases. You don't understand everything, but you can guess the meaning. And that moment feels different. Because suddenly, it's not just noise anymore. It starts to make sense. And from that point, everything becomes a little easier. You learn faster. You understand more. You feel more confident. Not because you changed everything overnight, but because you stayed long enough to build something underneath. Your life works in the same way. The small choices you make every day may not show results immediately. But beneath the surface, something is changing. Your mindset, your habits, your identity. And if you keep going, there will be a moment when you realize you are no longer the same person. Not because of one big decision, but because you stopped repeating the old ones. So if you feel stuck right now, don't look for a big solution. Don't wait for motivation. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Just look at your next choice. And ask yourself, am I repeating my old self? Or choosing something slightly different? Because your life tomorrow is not built by what you hope for today. It is built by what you choose. Again and again, starting now.